I've got Ralph Silva, Managing Director at Silva Research Network, here with me. So what do you make of the new structure with the co-CEOs at Deutsche Bank? It's been expected for a while.
It has been expected, but I'm not very positive about it. I think it's a temporary solution, and for one very simple reason. There is no... In history, there's never been a bank that's been run by two people successfully. It's just, it can't work. Why? Because the regulatory environment in Europe is changing so rapidly, almost day by day, that you need to make decisions just as rapidly. Consensus right now in the banking industry does not work in the European theater. Maybe 5 years from now, maybe 10 years from now, but in this current environment, you need to make decisions a lot faster.
And they've done this mainly because Jain doesn't speak German, is that right?
Well, I kind of feel for them, because the truth is to actually understand the German financial services market, you require 50 years of experience, to be quite honest with you. And he just doesn't have that experience. So there's a lot of doubt that he'll be able to manage that experience within Germany, which is why they've done this co-thing.
And they've not done too badly this quarter, reporting a profit. Investment banking, is that what's driving it?
I think so. And the truth is that all the banks in Europe overestimated their earnings simply because they expected the economy to recover at a greater pace than it actually did. So we're going to see all the major banks slightly miss their estimate.
Because of the soft patch that we've seen in the economy in the second quarter. Now, there was an interesting article in Die Welt newspaper reporting that Deutsche Bank would have accepted a 50% write-down on its Greek bond holdings. And now that it's going to do this voluntary 21% write-down, that it might actually produce a small profit for them.
It actually it should do. They're going to be in a unique position. But their position within Greece wasn't that significant when you compare it to other European banks. So they could play with those numbers a little bit more than some of the other banks. Like the French bank certainly couldn't do that. But in this case, Deutsche could certainly do it easily.
About 300 million
About
euros?
300 to 350 million, somewhere around there.
So we've also got, on the other side of the coin, UBS today reporting a huge drop in profit, and the CEO coming out and saying we're not going to make these 2014 goals, which the market had believed were unrealistic. Is that a good thing that they've dropped these goals?
I think it is. And UBS has a couple of very strange problems. Is they're hemorrhaging their top people, and they continue to do so for 2 years. Their top people.
4 out of 10 of the top people.
It's insane.
Left.
I can't actually believe they're still in existence because of the number of people that have left. And the people that are still there are doing a great job, yes, but there's just not enough business out there, and they're competing against their former employees in new institutions, and that's where they're losing a lot of their business. It'll turn around, but for UBS, it's going to take at least 5 years.
And they're going to do some cost cutting now, and they've got high costs because they've been doing a lot of hiring. Did they overhire?
It's not the hiring so much that's a problem with UBS. Actually, they need more people. It's the fact that their infrastructure costs are higher than some of the other banks. All the other banks have gone through a cost cutting from a technology perspective and an infrastructure perspective. UBS has been slow in doing that. They're just catching up.
And they've got, of course, these big capital requirements, extra big compared to the other banks. Now, when we look at banks and how they've performed recently, we did see a rally after the rescue deal for Greece, and we learned the details of the private sector involvement, up some 5.7% during that week. The stock's 600 banks sector. Are we going to see more upside with the banks? Is it a good thing? Are they cheap?
They are cheap, especially the larger organizations. We do have a set of have banks and have not banks. And have not banks, being the smaller banks, are hugely risky at this particular point. But the Deutsche Banks, the UBSs, the French banks, the big British banks, they're all fairly safe bets. Why? Because they're getting the majority of the investment banking business.
You say they're safe bets. Do you change your mind if we see contagion with the European debt crisis and we possibly see restructurings in Ireland and Portugal?
We will see some pain, but it'll be predominantly within the small to medium-sized banks, and the large banks will be somewhat insulated just because of the diversification of those banks. Even if they lose all that debt, they're still viable entities, where some of the smaller banks simply are not.
Which ones are you buying quickly?
I'm buying the French banks. I'm actually very keen on the French banks. I think they're doing incredibly well. They're very well positioned. They're going to divest themselves of the Greek holdings that they have, and I think they're good banks to actually buy into.
Ralph Silva, strategist at Silva Research Network. Thanks for being with us.